Hi, and welcome to the Stock Scores Market Minutes for July 25th, 2016. Let's talk about the difference between an alpha and a beta market. Alpha stocks are those that move on their own story, while beta stocks are those that move on their correlation to the overall market. Now, an alpha stock can be a beta stock some of the time, and then when there is something exciting with the fundamentals of the company, it can turn into an alpha stock where it's moving on its own story. What we have right now is a beta market. That means individual stocks in general are not moving a lot. What we have instead is a market that is being moved by the overall index. And that's because interest rates are low and investors are simply looking to earn what the market earns. And that means money flowing into the larger cap beta stocks. Now, if interest rates start to rise, investors look for a return that's greater than the market. They need to get more aggressive with finding return, and they start to play individual stocks more. It's important to understand this because as interest rates start to rise, assuming that the US Fed starts to raise rates, we will see more action in individual stocks, in so-called alpha stocks, than we are seeing now, which is in the overall market where the index seems to move the stocks rather than the stocks move the index. All right, let's talk about the market specifically for this week. And it was really a sideways, very narrow range market this week. You can see very boring sideways trading. After that big run up that we had, I was expecting that we'd see a pullback, but instead what we've seen is just a sideways, low volatility trending market. Not a lot of excitement, kind of typical for the summer, but difficult to trade because there's not a lot of action in that kind of environment. Looking at the longer term picture, we have a bullish chart here. We've broken through resistance. We've had 3 up weeks since that time, and there's really no sign of weakness. There's no show by the bulls that they're done yet, and there's no motivation by the sellers yet. I think we have to be cautious because of the quiet nature of the market. We do have a decision by the U.S. Federal Reserve next week on interest rates, and that could motivate some selling pressure. I don't think it motivates buying pressure because everyone expects them to keep rates low. If they say something about rates possibly going higher, I think we could see a pullback here. So an important week for the market, although at this point there's no sign that anything exciting is going to happen. Very low volatility also on the Russell 2000. There's the US small caps. And just look at how narrow that range is. That is a difficult market to trade. This is tradable. This is tradable. Doesn't matter whether it's going up or down. It's when you have volatility that there is something to trade. Well, we have no volatility right now, and that means you got to be very selective with the things that you trade because most stocks just aren't doing anything. On the on the Canadian market, we see that the cycle of rising bottoms continues, although it's certainly slowing. Again, you can see the narrow range of volatility the last 6 or 7 days, and that again means that most people aren't trading the market. They're at the beach, playing golf, whatever. They're not too focused on stocks, and so you have to be real selective in that environment. But again, on the longer term chart, we have a bullish trend. We had a little flag pattern there in the upward trend, and that defined the trend line, and now we continue higher. No reason to think that this market doesn't want to get back to the old highs, and until you see a breakdown of the trend, you have to remain bullish, although again, I want you to be selective because of the quiet nature of the market. TSX Venture, nice long-term upward trend that's been underway for 5 months or so. No breakdown, continues to move higher, and that is a market that the bulls are in control of, but just look at that last month. Although we're in an upward trend, it's been quiet, kind of like here, we're waiting for the next step up, and those steps up are when you get some action, some tradable action that you can make money from. On the U.S. Treasury side, we had that weakness the previous week to this. Last week, we kind of got quiet. We're still in an upward trend. Still, I would say overbought, looking for probably more pullback in treasuries. But this week showed a little bit of stability. We could get another spike higher, which means interest rates go down. What we're seeing is that money is flowing into the U.S. There's a lot of weakness or risk, I think, around the world. And money is saying, hey, let's just go to the safest place, and that's the U.S. Let's buy U.S. bonds. And of course, that's also bringing strength to the U.S. dollar. We saw that there. A little break of strength again this week. Still stuck in this range. Hasn't broken the downward trend line yet. So some upside potential, but I don't think there's a lot of excitement to be had here either. Hopefully you're understanding the theme this week. Not a lot of excitement in the market. Gold overbought, had run away from its trend line, now pulling back to the trend line, but the longer term upward trend remains up. Lots of volatility. That means lots of uncertainty. Short-term chart bearish because we've had a couple of down weeks in a row now. On the oil side, we are rolling over and more weakness this week. I think that oil is threatening to move even lower here, and it could be the catalyst for some weakness in the weeks ahead. And on the fear chart, sorry, I've got the wrong chart loaded in here. Fear is basically at lows. No fear, no concern about where things are going. We basically have a complacent market. So my ratings, I've dropped my rating on US stocks to neutral because they've been so dead quiet this last week or two. Bullish on the Canadian market on both time frames, but this could easily be neutral as well. It's just very quiet right now. Long term on gold bullish, short term bearish, bearish on both time frames on the oil side. The index has been in a strong upward trend throughout July, but don't be fooled. Most stocks are not doing much. Most stocks are just dead quiet, lacking buyer interest, while money flows into that beta play where they're buying the index, not buying individual stocks. This is a beta market. Key this week coming up will be comments from the US Fed on the future direction of interest rates. Watch for that. It could be a catalyst for some selling pressure. No sign of anything yet, but something to watch for next week. Oil weakness could also be a catalyst, as that oil weakness could spread, especially if the US dollar continues to strengthen. Well, that has been the Stock Scores Market Minutes for July 25th, 2016. Have a great week in the market and trade well.